You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look at better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheap again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the first part of What If Deku Meets Sonic? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Sonic Speed 546 on fanfiction.net. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Okay, whatever you are. If you want to avoid an embarrassing beatdown, then you better give up now. Sonic shouted with utmost confidence. Sonic and his younger self Classic Sonic, and his best friend Tails as well as his younger self Classic Tails, were staring at the monster in front of them that looked like something out of a bad nightmare. This monster, otherwise known as the Time Eater, was what caused this whole situation in the first place. It kidnapped all of Sonic's friends and threw them throughout time and put Sonic in a white limbo-like space where he ended up running into his past self who had also been snatched up by this malevolent force from his own time. Both Sonics were forced to run through places from their past, fight past enemies, and collect 7 colorful gemstones otherwise known as the Chaos Emeralds. This Time Eater that stood or levitated before them was a monster that looked like it was made out of black, purple smoke. It had devilish blue eyes and a mouth while having 4 giant arms. It had golden gears all throughout its body. Head and arms included. At the center of its body was a bright pink glowing core, and on the creature's back it had 4 huge mechanical purple wings. Just then one of the 2 pods on top of the Time Eater opened up revealing the nefarious Dr. Eggman. You're not in a position to demand anything. You, nasty little pincushion. Eggman shouted back in defiance. Eggman, but how? Tails questioned in confusion. To the young fox this didn't make any sense at all. Hadn't they just seen Eggman get kidnapped by this monster right after Classic Sonic defeated Eggman and his Death Egg robot? Sonic, who stood beside Tails, only slapped his head, agitated at the sight of the doctor. He had a slight feeling Eggman was behind all of this somehow. The second pod below Eggman's opened up revealing someone who looked a lot like Eggman but rounder. He had a little help. This mysterious person revealed. Classic Tails then pointed at the figure while Classic Sonic was making sure he was seeing things correctly. Dr. Robotnik. Nobody calls me that anymore, the younger Eggman said while shaking his finger. If you would be so kind to explain. Gentleman Genius Dr. Eggman from the future. It would be my pleasure. Most excellent and efficacious Dr. Eggman of the past. Eggman grinned. After my most recent setback, I stumbled upon the primordial form of this unique creation. Which I discovered had amazing abilities even I have never been able to mstr. Eggman explained. I discovered that it could erase time and space. I then had the brilliant idea to use my discovery to undo my previous defeats. In order to perfect it, I needed the help of somebody as smart as I am. The only person that's smart is me. Eggman bragged with a cheeky smile. Oh, you are too kind, my dear future self. And I was happy to help. The Eggman of the past agreed. I captured your friends, flinging them through time to bait my trap. Eggman boasted. But the more your monster tears through time, the more damage you do to the world. Tails explained with Sonic nodding in agreement. The world? I'm going to own the world when I'm finished with Sonic. Eggman laughed in a crazed manner to the point where even his past self was looking at him in disbelief and concern. Wow. Will I really get that crazy? The younger Eggman asked while slapping a hand on his head. His future self then looked down to him over his pod, hee hee. We'll see who's crazy after I destroy both Sonics, forever. Eggman threatened menacingly. You mean after we destroy them? The past Eggman corrected. Less arguing, more destroying. Destroy me? Sonic carelessly asked while pointing at himself. You and what mustache? I beat you all the time by myself and now there's two of me. Sonic said while pointing a thumb at classic Sonic, who did a 10 out of 10 backflip. Then I'll have twice as much fun defeating you. Eggman exclaimed. Both pods closed up and the Time Eater then put its hands together and started charging up an attack. Both Sonics then took off towards the monster and stopped in front of it right as the Time Eater then unleashed a barrage of purple energy spheres at the two blue blurs. Both Sonics ran off into different directions from each other at high speeds right before the first projectile could hit them. Sonic was circling around the Time Eater's right while classic Sonic was going around its left. Keep moving. Sonic yelled out to his past self, who nodded. Move all you want. I'm still going to stomp you into blue jelly. Eggman spoke as he pushed a button on his control panel. Just then one of the Time Eater's arms dislocated itself and flew into a makeshift portal. Both Sonics then regrouped and jumped high into the air towards the Time Eater. Before they could land a hit, the Time Monster swatted them away, which caused the two Sonics to skid across the ground. Both Sonic and Classic Sonic started to slowly get up and tried to shake the pain off but failed to notice a portal forming right above them. As Eggman laughed knowing he had them right where he wanted, both Sonics looked up too late as the Time Eater's hand crushed them into the ground. When the floating arm flew back into the air, it revealed both Sonics laying on the ground unconscious. That was just to soften you up, now it's time to meet your doom. Finally, for so long the Mad Doctor wanted to get rid of this pesky little blue hedgehog. After years of constant defeat, it was finally his moment. Not only will he beat one Sonic but two. The thought almost made Eggman laugh. It was like taking two hedgehogs out with one stone. You can do it, Sonic. Come on, Sonic. Smack him. Eggman's thoughts were cut short as he turned and looked into the distance and was able to see all of Sonic's friends on a bunch of floating rocks. With Knuckles, the Echidna and Amy Rose on the nearest ones. No. Not you. Eggman ferociously yelled while slamming his fist onto the control panel. Shadow the Hedgehog crossed his arms, keeping up with that dark and mysterious vibe he always gave off. The ultimate life form had his reasons on why he never looked happy. But a sly smirk could be seen on Shadow's face. You got this, Sonic. Come on, Big Blue. You can beat him. Rouge the Bat cheered next to Shadow. Who are they? The past Eggman questioned. They are insignificant. Eggman responded, his tone hostile. You got the power, Sonic. Vector the Crocodile said with enthusiasm while giving Sonic a thumbs up. Focus your spirit, SBO calmly advised. We're with you guys. Charmy the Bee exclaimed. I believe in you, Sonic. Cream spoke with slight fear in her voice while her Chow best friend who floated next to her nodded in agreement. Don't give in, Sonic, Blaze the Cat shouted. I know you can do this, Sonic. The time-traveling hedgehog Silver cheered. You can win, Sonic. Classic Tails cheered while throwing a fist into the air. You always do. Tails nodded, backing up his younger self's words. While the Sonics were still knocked out. 7 colorful gemstones appeared and started to orbit around the two blue hedgehogs. Both Sonic and Classic Sonic started to levitate into the air with the Chaos Emeralds still encircling around them. Sonic's hand then clenched into a fist, showing that he was wide awake and ready to fight, while his younger self was starting to stir awake as well. Time to scramble some, Eggman. Supersonic style. In an explosion of golden light, both Sonics entered into their super forms that could be achieved by obtaining all 7 Chaos Emeralds. The two Sonics' fur were now gold with their quills sticking straight into the air, they had golden auras around them, and Sonic's eyes were now red instead of green, while Classic Sonic's eyes stayed the same black color. Both of the super hedgehogs flew straight into the air at high speeds before coming back around and charging straight at the Time Eater. As the two supersonics were chasing the Time Eater, both Sonics and the Time Eater entered a dimension that was made up of colors that were mostly yellow, orange, red, and purple. The main thing that was spotted was that there were humongous gears floating around as well as a miniature sun. As the supersonics flew through the wormhole chasing after the Time Eater, the monster unleashed a ton of yellow energy spheres at them. "Watch out!" Sonic yelled to his past self. Both Sonics immediately started to dodge and weave through the barrage of homing missiles. Both of them then regrouped with Sonic barely moving out of the way as a warping arm attack appeared out of nowhere and tried to hit him. Sonic then boosted ahead with classic Sonic following close behind as he slammed into the Time Eater's core causing small cracks to appear. The Time Eater then roared in pain as it used its abilities to flee away. "Now we'll finish this." The Eggmen shouted as they shot out more homing shots. Classic Sonic then curled into a ball and charged up a supersonic spin dash before he flew forwards at unbelievable speeds to dodge the attacks. Sonic wasn't so lucky, as he tried boosting away, one of the homing attacks managed to hit him which pushed him back. All of Sonic's friends watching from below watched in horror hoping Sonic was okay. Classic Sonic also turned his head back in worry to make sure his future self was alright. As Sonic recovered, a small grin appeared on his face. "You can't stop me!" Sonic yelled with pride in his voice towards the time monster. All of Sonic friends started to cheer while Classic Sonic smirked. Sonic soon caught up to its past self as the two Eggmen launched another assault of homing attacks. But this time failing due to most of the attacks hitting the floating debris that was from all across time. Sonic then shot towards the Time Eater as it tried to crush him with its lower two arms. Sonic narrowly got out of the way and boosted right into the core once more, making the cracks he left earlier even bigger now. This attack also destroyed the two lower arms that tried to smush him just mere moments ago. As the Time Eater howled in pain, it teleported out of the wormhole and started to build up time energy. "It looks like time energy is building up," Tails stated with a look of worry on his face. As both Sonics noticed this, the older Sonic yelled out to his past self. "Brace yourself." Just then as he said that the dimension they were in stated to turn into a grayish color as both of the super hedgehogs became slower and slower. Having the perfect opportunity, the Time Eater then charged up a laser attack and shot it at the two hedgehogs, hitting both of them. Both Sonics screamed in pain as they were sent backwards. "Is something the matter?" Eggman mocked while Sonic's friends watched in terror. Both Sonics recovered before they made a beeline towards the Time Eater. "This ends right here. Right now. Eggman!" Sonic yelled as Classic Sonic flew by his side. They continued to dodge in between homing attacks and floating debris. Both of the Time Eater's arms dislocated before flying into makeshift portals like before. As the Sonics got closer, a portal formed above Sonic before the Time Eater's hand came out and grabbed Sonic, squeezing him in its grasp. Classic Sonic's eyes widened, but before he could come to his future self's aid, the Time Eater's other hand appeared and grabbed him as well. Down on the ground, Sonic's friends could only watch. Unable to do anything. The Eggmen of the past and future howled in amusement as the Time Eater's hands brought the two supersonics who were trapped in its grasp face to face with the nightmarish creature. "Do you know what I'm thinking past me?" Eggman grinned down to his younger self. The past Eggman rubbed his palms as a wicked grin formed on his face. "I believe I do, future me. You're thinking right now is the perfect time we erase the Sonics from history." "Why yes. That was what I was thinking. You know what they say. Great minds do think alike." Eggman winked. As both Sonics continued to struggle to break out of the Time Eater's grasp. Sonic mustered up a pained smirk. "Be before you do that, Eggy, want to know why you've lost to me all these years? Come on, I know you do." A blatant attempt to distract me, no doubt, but what the heck? What would that be, my little yellow nuisance? Eggman questioned with a grin. Sonic gave his arch-nemesis his own grin. "You underestimate me too much." Sonic then nodded to Classic Sonic as the two super hedgehogs glowed brighter before they both unleashed a pulse of golden energy, making the Time Eater let go and roar in pain. Ah! No! Eggman yelled, blinded by the flash of light. Let's scramble those eggs past me. Sonic shouted towards his past self, who smiled and nodded in return as the two Sonics flew towards the Time Eater at high speeds. The Time Eater's arms relocated with its shoulders before putting its hands together. The Eggman would put everything into this attack. A massive fireball formed between its hands as it grew in size. We'll end it. Burn! Burn to ashes! The Eggmen screamed in unison, using the Time Eater's full power. Fully intending on obliterating both Sonics from the face of the earth once and for all. The world, no. The universe will finally be theirs to rule. With no one to stop them. Sonic locked eyes with Classic Sonic. Let's do this. Together. Sonic smiled to his past self. Now, go for it. All of Sonic's friends cheered. Both Super Sonics held each other hands and started to spin in a 360-degree angle as they collided into the fireball. Combining their power, both Sonics managed to pierce through the ball of flames as they rammed into the cracked core, destroying it almost instantly while leaving a golden streak behind as they flew from out the other side of the temporal monster. As Sonic and Classic Sonic turned around, the last thing they saw were white rays of light starting to pierce out from the cracks forming on the Time Eater before it exploded in white light. The Sonics covered their eyes right before the explosion consumed them. Pain. Unimaginable pain. That's what Sonic felt. His whole body felt like it was on fire, his ears were ringing while his mind couldn't think straight. What the heck happened? He groaned. He slowly and painfully got up as his eyes adjusted to his surroundings, immediately noticing Classic Sonic laying on the floor unconscious right next to him. He also noticed the 7 Chaos Emeralds laying around the two of them as well. Sonic crouched down to his past self and slightly nudged him, trying to wake him up. Rise and shine, sleepy head. We need to figure out where we are because I doubt we're in Green Hills. Sonic said softly. Suddenly Sonic's hand was swatted away by Classic Sonic as he started to groan and slowly open his eyes, most likely feeling the same effects as Sonic did moments ago. I know, I didn't want to get up either. But we need to figure out where we are. Sonic explained. Sonic then offered a hand to his younger self as Classic Sonic weakly took it before his future self pulled him up to his feet. Classic Sonic stumbled a bit before finding his footing and then looked around to observe his surroundings. Okay then, first order of business. We need to find out where we are. By the looks of it we seem to be in an alleyway, and I can hear the sounds of vehicles in the distance, so we're definitely in some sort of city, perhaps Station Square. Sonic asked his past self. Classic Sonic gave him a confused look. Oh yeah, that's right. You haven't been to Station Square yet. Well, not officially anyway. But don't worry. You'll end up visiting there soon enough, and I can tell you. They have some of the best chili dogs around. The mere mention of a chili dog caused Classic Sonic's stomach to rumble loudly, which caused him to blush slightly in embarrassment. Right. Second order of business. That fight with those two eggheads and their time pet drained us, so we'll have to find some food too. Sonic pointed out. And finally, third order of business. What are we going to do about the Chaos Emeralds? Sonic asked as both Sonics turned and faced towards the glowing gemstones. As Sonic was thinking, Classic Sonic noticed a nearby dumpster with an old, dirty, blue backpack hanging off the side. An imaginary light bulb appeared over his head, showing that he had an idea as he zoomed over to the dumpster and took the backpack before zooming back to his future self. He then tapped his future self's shoulder, trying to get his attention. When Sonic turned to him, he pointed his finger inside the open backpack, signaling to put the emeralds inside. Wow! Good thinking, me. Sonic complimented while putting the 7 emeralds that contained ultimate power inside the dirty backpack. he then swung the backpack over his shoulders and onto his back, adjusting the quills on his back to make room for the backpack. His younger self gave a thumbs up showing that he appreciated the compliment before pointing to a bright light in the distance which most likely was the exit. "There's our exit. Let's juice," Sonic said cheekily. Both Sonics then jogged at a fast pace until coming to a halt right at the exit. As both Sonics peered out of the alleyway's exit, they both spotted humans going about through their day. A local businessman on his way to his job, a group of small children walking across the sidewalk, a man with a praying mantis head and insect legs helping an old lady cross the street. Wait, what? Sonic intentionally rubbed his eyes to make sure he was not hallucinating anything. He tapped his younger self's shoulder to gain his attention. When classic Sonic turned to what his older self was looking at, his eyes immediately widened as jaw dropped. The little Sonic then stuck out his arm and pinched himself to make sure he wasn't dreaming. "Why, you're seeing what I'm seeing, right?" Sonic asked in disbelief. Without even turning away from the bizarre sight, classic Sonic slowly nodded his head. As both Sonics watched the half-man, half-mantis. The mantis man casually walked past a man who was literally on fire. Now both Sonic's jaws were dropped. Soon both Sonics started to spot humans with these strange anomalies. Sonic saw a man with 8 arms. While classic Sonic pointed to a small child across the road whose whole body was made out of cement. "Since when did humans look like, well, anything?" Sonic exclaimed in shock. Classic Sonic simply shrugged, showing that he had absolutely no idea. "You don't think the Time Eater sent us to the future or anything, right? Or what about to another universe?" Sonic asked his past self. His past self simply shrugged, showing that once again he had absolutely no clue on any of this. Sonic then spotted a woman whose back was turned to the 2 blue hedgehogs who was facing presumably to someone else. He then decided to walk up to the woman so that he could ask her where they happened to be, with classic Sonic closely following behind. Sonic then tugged on the young woman's skirt to get her attention. Excuse me ma'am, I hate to bother you, but could you please dash?" Sonic didn't get to finish asking his question as he stopped mid-sentence because he was too stunned to speak. His younger self behind him simply stared with wide eyes at the appearance of the women. As the women turned to face the person who needed to speak to her, both Sonics got a pretty close-up view of the lady's crazy appearance. She had 2 tentacles instead of arms and even tentacles for hair, which Sonic had no idea how he missed, and had 1 giant eye. "OMG, you 2 are literally the cutest things I have ever seen," the squid lady squealed. Before the 2 Sonics could react, the squid lady scooped them up with her tentacles, wrapping them around each of their waists. "Whoa! Hey! What are you doing?" Sonic yelled while his past self had a frightened look on his face, trying to escape the tentacles' clutches. "You 2 have the cutest animal quirks. Shinzi! Come look at these 2. The squid lady squealed even more while also dodging Sonic's question. She then turned around and lowered the 2 hedgehogs, but still had her tentacles wrapped around them. They were put in front of some kid who obviously belonged to his mother, given he had the same traits as her. He then lifted his tentacle and was moving it all around classic Sonic's head, getting slime everywhere. From Sonic's point of view, he could see his past self trying to keep a straight face as well as looking as if he was trying to not throw up because of the little green tint to his face. He, you look like a stuffed animal," the little squid boy said out loud in joy. Sonic was sure if Eggman was watching, he was having the time of his life. Hey ma'am, I know we're cute and all, but I don't think he likes having a slimy tentacle all over him, no offense of course." Sonic spoke. "OMG, of course I am so sorry," the squid lady quickly apologized as she immediately let go of the 2 blue blurs. Right as she let go of classic Sonic, he instantly started to shake his fur at an increased pace to get rid of all the slime that covered him. "Please forgive me and my son. I get a little too excited when I see adorable little animals. I'm so sorry me and my son touched you both without your permission," the squid women cried out as she started to bow rapidly. Sonic could notice tears were starting to form in her singular eye considering its size. Hey, don't cry. It was just a harmless mistake, that's all. Sonic said, trying to cheer her up. Ah, really? Thank you. I know I don't deserve it. Which is why I completely understand if your brother won't forgive my actions. The squid mother said with guilt in her voice. The two Sonics looked to each other a little shocked that she thought that they were brothers. Well, I guess it makes sense why she thinks that. It's also way more believable saying we're brothers than explaining how he's myself just from the past. Sonic thought. Oh. My brother? I think he forgives ya. We all make mistakes. Especially my little buddy here. Sonic laughed while putting an arm around classic Sonic, who just gave Sonic a strange look but was met back with a look that told him to just go along with it. Although he was still a little grumpy about the whole being covered in slime thing, classic Sonic decided that it was all in the past and to just forgive her. He then gave her a thumbs up with an approving smile. That means he forgives you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. The squid mother cried while putting her hands together. Again, don't worry about it. But could you perhaps tell us what city we're in? Strange question, I know. Sonic chuckled. Oh. Okay. You're in Musudafu, Japan. The squid lady claimed. Musudafu? Can't say I've ever heard of a place with a name like that before. Sonic said with classic Sonic nodding his head in agreement. The squid lady looked at them puzzled. Really? Well, how did you two end up here? Are you both lost? Where are your guys' parents? We're, meeting up with them. Sonic lied. And I guess you could say we're not from around here. Sonic rubbed the back of his quills sheepishly. Oh, okay then. If you need any directions, then I'll be happy to dash. But before she could finish speaking, a loud boom was heard from far away. And in the near distance pitch black smoke could be seen floating up into the air. Whoa! What was that? Sonic exclaimed as classic Sonic looked at the smoke with surprise. What was that explosion? A nearby man shouted. Are villains attacking? A schoolgirl questioned in fear. Let's hope the pro heroes deal with it then, man with spikes all over his body said to the girl. Huh? Villains? Pro heroes? What are they talking about? Sonic thought. Sonic soon turned his attention back to the squid lady, wanting to know more about these pro heroes and villains. Hey! What did they mean by pro heroes? And villains? Sonic asked, gaining the attention of the squid lady in classic Sonic. What? How do you not know these things? The squid lady replied in shock. Like I said, me and my little brother are really not from around here. Sonic repeated, emphasizing on the word really. Villains use their quirks to do crimes here while the pro heroes use theirs to stop the villains and put them behind bars, the squid mother said while her son was hiding behind her legs in fear. It's kind of how our society works, you know. That word again, quirks. Sonic heard it before, the squid lady said it before while holding him and classic Sonic. He was going to assume that word meant superpowers here, as it sounded like villains and heroes here were fairly common. Villains, huh? Those are the type of people that me and my little bro here love to smack down. Sonic exclaimed while raising a fist bump to his little brother. Classic Sonic's answer was giving him a smirk and delivering the fist bump through before the two Sonics then started to get ready to take off towards the site of the blast. Wait. You're going to take on the villain? But you need a lick dash. Unfortunately for her, she didn't have time to finish before both Sonics took off at impossible speeds towards the black smoke, leaving both her and her son in shock. Wow! Did you see that, mommy? They're really fast. The little squid boy said with excitement in his voice. His mother, however, couldn't get a single word out. Izukumidoriya didn't know why he started to run. He didn't know why he was running to the terrifying sludge villain who was currently holding his childhood friend / bully Katsuki Bakugou hostage. The same friend who would constantly bully and torment him with his explosion quirk for being quirkless ever since they were kids. The rest of his classmates would laugh at him for lacking a quirk while his teachers would simply look at him with pity and ignore him. So why was he running towards him with the intentions of saving him? Without a quirk he was useless, right? That's what his brain was telling him. But his heart was telling him something else. He didn't know if it was because all his life, he was inspired by his number one hero All Might, who just under an hour ago told him he couldn't be a hero without a quirk. Or because maybe it was simply the right thing to do. As Midoriya ran out of the crowd, past the three pro heroes and the hot flames towards the villain who tried to take over his body earlier that day, he could hear the shouts of the crowd and the pro heroes telling him to come back. "No, you idiot, you're gonna get yourself killed," one pro hero yelled while reaching out to him. "Not this brat again," the sludge villain said in irritation. "Deku?" Bakugou weakly muttered as he tiredly looked at him with the one eye that wasn't covered by sludge. As Midoriya was closing the gap between him and the giant, green sludge villain, his mind was racing. What am I doing? Why am I running? Why can't I stop? Izuku screamed in his mind. "You're toast, kid," the sludge villain yelled while preparing to attack. "What do I do? What would a hero do right now?" Midoriya questioned as he was getting closer to the villain who was holding Bakugou inside of him. His mind suddenly flashed back to his hero notebook which kept all of the information he had on pro heroes and quirks. Page 25. Right. Midoriya thought loudly. As Midoriya picked up a little more speed, he then took off his school backpack before throwing it right at the sludge villain's face, causing him to yell out in pain and lose focus on Midoriya and his hostage, giving Bakugou the chance to wiggle his face out of the sludge villain's hold to gain the air that he desperately needed to breathe in. "Kaken!" Midoriya screamed as he pounced on the villain and began to scratch and tear at the sludge. "What the hell? Why are you here?" Bakugou screamed at Midoriya. "I don't know. My legs, they just started moving." Midoriya yelled and paused responses. As Midoriya continued to tear at the sludge with his fingernails. Back at the crowd that was watching in horror, a very malnourished man that almost looked like a walking skeleton, with messy blonde hair and dark shallow blue eyes was watching the whole scene unfold. "Kaken, I couldn't just stand there and watch you die." Midoriya cried out as tears started to form in his green eyes. The man's face turned into shock as he heard this kid's words seemingly hitting him down to the very core as if a spark was lit. This skeleton man who usually no one would bat an eye to was secretly the number one hero All Might, the symbol of peace. About an hour ago he rescued the same green-haired boy from the same sludge villain he was attacking. It was also when he revealed his true form to the boy and told him that he couldn't be a hero without a quirk. He felt bad, of course, but it was better to wake people up from an impossible dream than to keep them living in it. But yet here he was, watching helplessly, unable to do anything, as the same quirkless boy he told couldn't be a hero was doing exactly that. Being a hero. "Get the hell off of me!" Bakugou roared at the sludge villain, explosions erupting from within the villain. "I have to do something." All Might grunted as he slowly started to bulk up. "No matter the cost. Just a little longer, kid, and then I am done playing with you," the sludge villain screamed as he reached out to grab Midoriya. "Save the boy. This thing will kill him," one of the pro heroes yelled as all three of them started to charge towards the boy to save him. As All Might's eyes widened when he realized he didn't have enough time to bulk up into his muscular form to save Izuku. And that the fact that the three pro heroes wouldn't make it on time to the boy before he would be killed by the villain. Without warning, two streaks of blue appeared out of seemingly nowhere as one scooped up Midoriya in time right before the sludge villain was about to grab him, while the other blue blur presumably jumped up towards the sludge villain's arm and cut it straight off in one swift slide. The sludge villain then cried out in pain as he reeled his arm back while the part that was cut off dropped to the ground. The three pro heroes came to a halt as they were stunned about what just happened, with the crowd behind them also seemingly confused on what just transpired. All Might had a look of shock on his face as he was also confused on what happened before his very eyes. It all happened so fast. His eyes scanned around the area before Midoriya appeared out of nowhere in front of the officers with widespread eyes. The frightened boy wasn't alone though, as somebody or something was beside him. What the? All Might muttered in disbelief. Right besides Midoriya was a small being who looked like a blue porcupine. Midoriya's savior had porcupine-like quills coming off its head and back, had green, emerald eyes, with a peach belly, mouth, and arms. The porcupine was wearing white gloves and red shoes with a white pattern to them. The strange porcupine was saying something to Midoriya as he handed him a blue backpack. A mutant-type quirk. But how was he so fast then? All Might asked himself. Suddenly from a few feet away, the second blue blur stopped as it was revealed to be someone who looked a lot similar, who also only wore white gloves and red shoes like Midoriya's savior. The only difference was that with this porcupine-like person was that instead of green eyes, he had black pupils, his body shape was also a lot rounder, and the color of his fur was a lighter shade of blue that looked a lot like the color of the sky. Another one? All Might asked as the crowd, the pro heroes, and the sludge villain turned their attention to the mysterious two blue hedgehogs. 5 minutes earlier. Currently both Sonics were running at high speeds to the direction of the smoke as they were dodging and weaving in between cars and trucks. Soon they were a good 200 feet away before Sonic spoke. Sonic. Let's scope out what's happening on top of that building up ahead and see what we're dealing with here. Sonic yelled out to his past self. He was met with a nod as both he and his younger self ran up the side of a building before coming to a stop on the roof as he slid with his feet while classic Sonic dug his heels into the ground, skidding across the rooftop. Okay. Let's see what the ruckus is all about. Sonic said as he walked with his younger self to the edge of the roof to get a good vantage of the situation. Both Sonic's eyes widened at the events in front of them. Down below was what appeared to be in the middle of a market on fire was a giant blob of green sludge with big wide yellow eyes and a horrific smile plastered on its face. About 25 feet away were three strange-looking individuals in equally strange-looking costumes. Further away from them were a bunch of police officers barricading a crowd of anxious-looking citizens from getting anywhere closer. Behind the crowd appeared to be a 100-foot-tall lady wearing a skin-tight suit with horns. Well, there's something you don't see every day. Sonic quipped. Classic Sonic then noticed something weird about the sludge monster as it looked like explosions were happening within it. He then spotted a puff of blonde hair sticking out of the monster. He was confused for a moment before realizing what he was looking at was a person. He quickly got the attention of his older self and then pointed towards the puff of blonde hair. Huh? Do you see something? Sonic asked his younger self. Classic Sonic ferociously nodded as he jumped up and down while continuing to point at the blonde-headed boy trapped inside the sludge monster. Oh. That's a person in there. Sonic shouted. Classic Sonic put a hand over his head in relief after finally getting his future self to spot the boy. Okay, so I think it's pretty obvious that big green pile of vomit is a villain, and that those three costumed guys are some of the pro heroes that Squid Lady told us about, Sonic assumed while Classic Sonic gave him a shrug in response. But if those are the heroes, then why are they just standing around and not doing anything? Sonic questioned. Classic Sonic put a finger to his chin as he looked up to the sky in thought. As both Sonics were thinking, they were interrupted as a loud explosion was heard from the scene as the boy trapped in the sludge villain screamed. Let me go, you bastard. A scream from the boy being held hostage could be heard before a loud explosion followed. Was that kid making the explosions? Was this the kid's quirk? Alright, that's it. Those so-called heroes aren't going to do anything about it, so it's time we took matter into our own hands. Sonic frustratingly said as he turned to his younger self. You ready, buddy? He was met with a confident nod as both Sonics prepared to jump down to intervene. But before they could, a green-haired boy managed to run out of the crowd, past the police officers and costumed individuals towards the sludge monster. This surprised both Sonics, causing them to not jump down yet and watch. The green-haired boy threw his backpack at the villain's face, stunning the sludge monster for a second before pouncing on the villain and started to tear at it. Both Sonics watched in awe as the boy ripped and slashed at the sludge villain with his bare hands, trying his hardest to free the boy trapped within. The bravery this kid had inspired the two Sonics. Standing up to a threat bigger than himself so he could save somebody else's life. If what the Squid Lady said about this world being filled with heroes was true, then this boy was definitely on the right track. As the Sonics watched, Sonic noticed the sludge villain was beginning to reach out to the green-haired boy. With fear in his eyes, Sonic turned to his classic self, "It's now or never, buddy." Right after classic Sonic turned to Sonic and gave him a nod, both Sonics then jumped down to the chaos below. Almost instantly as they landed, both blurs took off at insane speeds towards the green-haired boy, right before the sludge arm could grab him. Sonic managed to tackle the boy out of the way before they both tumbled forward and came to a stop out of sight from everyone behind one of the shop stands of the market. Just when Sonic tackled the green-haired kid out of the way of the villain's hand, classic Sonic jumped towards the villain's arm and curled into a ball midair, unearthing his spiked quills as he chopped right through the sludge arm instantly before landing by sliding to a stop. A cry of pain was heard from the villain as classic Sonic zoomed away to the stand that his future self and the boy landed behind before he could be spotted. Man. Probably could have stuck that landing better, Sonic groaned as he got off from on top of the green-haired boy he saved, who currently was staring back at Sonic with wide eyes. "Heh, sorry about the rough landing, man. You alright?" Sonic asked. Before he could respond, however, a second blue blur stopped right behind Sonic, which was his past self. The green-haired kid's eyes somehow got even wider as his mouth was wide open in shock. "Hey. You okay in there, kid?" Sonic asked while snapping his fingers in front of his face. This seemed to snap the kid out of whatever trance he was in. Huh? Oh. "Why yeah, I'm okay, I think," the boy stuttered with his speech. Just a few scratches and bruises here and there." "Good to hear," Sonic said, acting like they weren't currently in a war zone right now. Who are you guys?" The green-haired boy stammered. "Are you pro heroes?" "I'm Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog," Sonic said proudly. "As for my little bro here, his name is, Maurice. His name is Maurice. Maurice the Hedgehog." Sonic smiled, creating a fake name for his little brother on the spot because he couldn't really say his name was Sonic as well. That just wouldn't make any sense. Classic Sonic wanted to give his older self a slap on the back of the head for giving him such a ridiculous name, but decided against it. "And as for your second question, yeah. I guess you could say we're pro heroes," Sonic claimed. "Are really? I've never seen or heard you two before, and not to mention you guys sound and look too you dash. Here's the deal, buddy. I'm going to run you over to the nice police officers over there while me and my little bro here will deal with the big, scary sludge monster over there." "Got it?" Sonic asked, not even giving the poor boy time to respond. Sonic grabbed onto the green-haired kid's school uniform and ran him over to the police officers that were currently keeping the freaked-out crowd in check. The police officers became startled after the reappearance of the green-haired boy after he had seemingly just before blinked out of existence. Before Sonic turned around to confront the sludge villain, he quickly remembered something. "Oh yeah. Hey kid, can you do a favor for me?" Sonic asked. Why yeah. "Sure, what is it?" he responded. "Can you do me a quick favor and hold on to this for me?" Shouldn't be too long once me and my brother are done dealing with this creep, Sonic said as he took off the blue, dirty, backpack he was carrying which contained the Chaos Emeralds, and handed it to the disheveled kid. Okay. Yeah sure. The green-haired boy replied. Thanks. Sonic yelled out as he ran to Classic Sonic who was currently having a stare down with the sludge villain who he had just chopped off his arm. Sonic then lifted a finger and pointed it at the villain. Okay, this is how it's going to go down, sludge boy. Either you let that kid go and surrender. Or you're going to be on your way to jail with your head hung low from shame after this embarrassing beatdown me and my little buddy will give you. Sonic proclaimed, absolute confidence radiating from him while Classic Sonic clenched a fist towards the villain. What the hell are you two supposed to be? Blue rats? The sludge villain asked in confusion. Wrong. Nice try though. We're hedgehogs, thank you very much. Sonic smirked while Classic Sonic snickered from behind. Well then hedgehogs, you'll pay dearly for that stunt you pulled earlier, the sludge villain said motioning to the now stump where his arm used to be. Oh, I'm sorry. But I missed the part where that's our problem. Sonic taunted. This seemed to tick off the villain as he shot multiple long strands of sludge at the two Sonics. Both hedgehogs jumped out of way and took off like rockets towards the green villain. The sheer speed at which the two hedgehogs were going at caught the villain and everyone else who was watching off guard as the blue blur struck the sludge villain with two powerful fists only to bounce right off and be sent back flying where they originally took off as they landed on their backs. Hahaha, you two have some powerful quirks but they're nothing compared to mine, the villain boldly claimed. Oh yeah? Well at least we don't sound like a broken voice speaker. Sonic quipped as both Sonics then started to run around the sludge villain, making multiple laps in seconds. The villain growled before summoning multiple green tendrils from all around his body trying to hit the now two blue blurs. Unfortunately for him he could not hit either hedgehog as they were dodging, jumping, and sliding under the green tendrils of sludge. You're too slow. Sonic called out to the villain. Meanwhile Classic Sonic stopped abruptly in front of the villain's face before sticking his tongue at him and then speeding away before he could get crushed. The villain roared in anger as he continued in trying to hit the speedsters only for each attempt to end in failure. Back with the crowd, they were watching the whole thing in awe. Wow! Their quirks are fast. A man with wings spoke. They're really adorable. Especially the smaller one. One girl gushed with hearts in her eyes. Shouldn't they leave this to the pros though? Another girl asked. No way. Can't you see they got this in the bag? A young kid with a fish tail and fin said. Midoriya wasn't listening to the crowd though as he was too encapsulated in the action in front of him. They're so amazing. Midoriya thought, back with the fight. The sludge villain was getting more and more tired as the heat from the fire around them and from overusing his quirk in trying to hit the two fast hedgehogs. Don't. You two. Ever, get tired? The sludge villain asked in paused breaths as he was starting to breath pretty heavily. He now looked like if you dropped your ice cream on a hot summer's day. He was starting to lose his hold on the boy he had held hostage, which didn't go unnoticed by Sonic. He gained his younger self's attention by waving over to him. I think he's starting to lose his hold over that kid. Sonic stated. I'll try distracting him while you go and pull the kid out, got it? Sonic asked. Classic Sonic gave his future self a thumbs up as Sonic started to taunt the villain. Hey sludge boy. I'm right here. Come and get me. Sonic yelled as he did a little dance. RYYY. The sludge villain gritted his teeth as he tried to grab the hedgehog with multiple tendrils only to fail as Sonic simply sidestepped them. Olé! Sonic called out as he sidestepped another tendril like he was dodging a bull. This angered the sludge villain to the point where he didn't even notice Classic Sonic sneaking up in front of him to grab the blonde boy out. Who the hell are you? The blonde boy questioned him. Classic Sonic decided to ignore him as he started to pull on the blonde boy's loose arm, getting the picture. The blonde boy started to try and wiggle out, becoming a tad bit looser. Using his quirk, he let out a massive explosion that sent him flying out of the sludge villain's body, with classic Sonic landing on top of him. "UGH, get off of me," he yelled while pushing classic Sonic off of him. The young Sonic got back up before scowling at the boy who he had just saved as he took off to his future self. Sonic jerked up his thumb. "Good job. Now we don't have to hold back our speed anymore." Hold back." The villain gulped in fear. Immediately both Sonic and Classic Sonic took off at sub-sonic speeds in a circle around the villain parallel to each other. Within 10 seconds 2 sonic booms were heard as a miniature tornado started to form. The green-haired kid, the kid Classic Sonic pulled out, the pro-heroes and the rest of the crowd were watching with tons of shock on their face as the fires around were immediately put out due to the winds caused by the small tornado. The giant lady with horns was momentarily blocking the strong winds from possibly blowing away any of the citizens. At the epicenter of the cyclone, the sludge villain was trying to think of something to do as pieces of him were starting to get sucked into the air. Hey WWH, what's happening to me? The sludge villain asked as his voice shook with fear. And no. It can't end like this. No. The sludge villain screamed as he was torn apart by the winds of the tornado. As soon as both Sonic stopped running, the tornado dispersed, sending all of the parts of the villain around the area in messy blobs. "We did it, little buddy. High five." Sonic cheered while raising his hand to his past self. Classic Sonic gave his future self a high five as the two of them did a victory dance. The next thing the two of them knew was that we're quickly surrounded by the pro-heroes, giving the both of them nasty glares. "Hey, what's with all the harsh stares? We didn't do something wrong, did we?" Sonic quietly whispered to Classic Sonic, who shrugged while observing the 3 costumed individuals that were currently surrounding them. Sonic felt rain droplets landing on his blue fur as the sky soon was filled with gray clouds, likely due to the tornado that Sonic and Classic Sonic created to defeat the sludge villain that was now dispatched in blobs around the area. "Holy CRP, did they change the weather?" one of the pro-heroes asked as it started to drizzle. Back with the crowd was both confused and amazed as they watched the raindrops fall down. "Is it raining?" someone asked. Did they do that?" another person asked in amazement. All Might's thoughts were in a buzz right now as he tried to question the events that just transpired. They changed the weather based on pure speed alone. All Might said to himself, impressed. If only they didn't break the law, they could be great heroes. Back with the Sonics. Because of how close they were to the pro-heroes, Sonic had a up-close perspective on them. One of the heroes looked like a man made out of wood, who had on a dark blue bodysuit. Another looked like a walking fire hydrant that wore what a typical firefighter would wear. The third individual was a pretty well-built man who looked like he was in his late 40s or 50s. He wore blue pants with Torque's shirt that showed off his abs and chest. He had the pattern of a construction zone covering his head, waist, and wrists. "You two are under arrest for illegally using your quirks and committing vigilantism," the wooded hero stated. "Wait, what?" Sonic shouted while Classic Sonic's face only had confusion on it. "Without a hero license you can't use your quirks to fight villains. Doing so is breaking the law and would result in punishment." "Which is exactly what you two just did," the hero with the big chin claimed. "Hey! Give us a break. Me and my little bro aren't from around here, we don't know how the rules here work," Sonic yelled out. "Then we'll be happy to bring you two down to the station so that you both can explain your situation." "Station? As in police station?" Heck no. Sonic had already been arrested by the police once thanks to Shadow, and he doesn't plan on that happening again. "Sorry but not sorry. Me and my bro here don't plan on getting arrested for doing the right thing. In fact, y'all should be the ones getting arrested for just standing there when that villain had that kid hostage," Sonic boldly said, with Classic Sonic agreeing as they both got into fighting stances. "So be it then," the wooded hero spoke before multiple branches sprouted out of his arms, ready to attack and apprehend the two hedgehogs while the other two pro-heroes started to close in on them. But before anyone could do anything, a pink mist started to form around the two hedgehogs. Huh? What is this? Sonic said as he observed the pink mist while classic Sonic was trying to swat it away. Both Sonics then started to feel very exhausted as their eyelids became heavy and their arms and legs became tired and strong to move. Why do I feel so tired? Sonic asked as he rubbed his eyes. Nice job, Midnight, they should be down in no time, the hero made out of wood spoke. No problem, darling, a feminine voice said from behind the two Sonics. Well, aren't you two little fuzzballs adorable, the same feminine voice said with a giggle. Both Sonics didn't have the energy to turn around and face who was causing the pink gas that was seemingly driving the two hedgehogs asleep as classic Sonic then fell to the ground, now presumably asleep. Sonic fell to one knee as he struggled to lift his head up. The last thing he saw before falling unconscious was the green-haired kid handing the backpack containing the Chaos Emeralds to one of the police officers. Saying Izukumidoriya had a bad day would be an understatement. Not only did he have his dreams shattered by his favorite hero, but he almost was killed by that sludge villain. After the two blue beings with animal-like quirks who Midoriya guessed were either a porcupine or hedgehog quirks' unconscious bodies were taken away to police custody. Midoriya had gotten a real scolding from the pro-heroes for doing something so reckless, especially after they found out he was quirkless. Meanwhile, his childhood friend/bully Bakugou was getting tons of praise from the pro-heroes, saying how he was going to make a great pro-hero one day. He didn't care nor listen, however, because the only thing he had his focus on was Deku. He was giving him a death glare the entire time they were there after the incident. I'm glad those two blue hedgehogs saved me, I would have hated to leave Mom behind like that. She would have been so sad. Midoriya shuddered at such thoughts as he instantly shut them down. What were their names again? Oh right. Sonic and Maurice. If I ever run into them again I should thank them. Midoriya decided. Although I wish I had my hero notebook, Sonic and Maurice were so cool and fast. I could have written them and their quirks in my notebook. Midoriya thought as he continued to walk down the sidewalk to his apartment. I wish Kaken didn't destroy it. DKU. Oh no, Midoriya squeaked as he heard an angry voice calling out his nickname, and only one person ever called him Deku. He slowly turned around and saw Bakugou sprinting at him before coming to an abrupt stop in front of him to catch his breath. Listen. Bakugou growled. I would never ask for a weakling like you to help me. Don't think you can look down on me. Huh. Got that. I was fine by myself until you and those two blue mice showed up. You're just a quirkless failure who can't even cut it for a rent-a-cop. Bakugou vented out his frustration. You didn't help me, you did nothing, Bakugou scoffed. I don't owe you anything, Bakugou yelled again as he stomped away. Midoriya had a look of disbelief on his face. What was that? As Midoriya turned around, he didn't get 5 feet before another surprise happened. I am here. Allmight. Where'd you come from? Midoriya shrieked in surprise. From the alleyway. Allmight proudly said before steam dispersed from his body as he turned back into a skinny man as he coughed up blood. Young man. I came here to apologize. And to also discuss your question from earlier, Allmight revealed. Huh? Really? What for? Midoriya questioned. Back at the villain attack, I was a part of the crowd watching and was unable to do anything because I didn't have enough energy. If it wasn't for those two blue vigilantes then you and that boy would have been goners. Allmight sadly stated. So, I want to apologize to you. Oh no. It was my fault that he was there to begin with. I got in the way of your strong work, I wasted your energy, and not to mention your time, Midoriya said with a hint of sadness in his voice. And why shouldn't he? For Midoriya the whole world might as well be ending. He had gotten in the way of a hero, but not just any hero. He had gotten in the way of the hero. the #1 hero Izuku had looked up to for his whole life. All Might, the symbol of peace. Not only that, but his actions had put himself and others in danger. And just like All Might said, if those two blue hedgehogs weren't there, then he and Bakugou would have surely died. If he had never distracted All Might with that stupid question, then none of this would have ever happened. I'm not done. Midoriya's eyes shot back up to All Might. You told me you didn't have a power. So when I saw this timid quirkless boy try to save a life, it inspired me. Midoriya looked at All Might in surprise. He inspired his idol. His hero. There are stories about every hero, how they became great. Most have one thing in common. Their bodies moved before they had a chance to think, almost on their own. All Might continued speaking. And today, that happened to you. Midoriya was staring at All Might in shock as his eyes started to tear up while his nose sniffled. Midoriya was going down memory lane as he fell to his knees as he started to sob out of joy. Young man, you too, can become a hero. Sonic started to stir awake as he slowly opened his eyelids. As his eyes adjusted to the white light above him, he took in his surroundings. He appeared to be in a room with a table in front of him with 2 chairs on the other side. Another table near the wall that had a coffee machine on it. And on the wall behind the chairs opposite to him was a long glass window, or a mirror really, with a door to the left of it. As Sonic tried to get up, he felt his arms handcuffed to the seat, which in turn was stapled to the ground. He then felt a soft kick to his left leg. As he turned to his left, he made eye contact with his younger self who was sitting right next to him, also handcuffed. Hey buddy. I guess you woke up before me. Do you happen to know where we are? Sonic asked. Classic Sonic shrugged, showing that he had no idea. Before Sonic could say something, the door to the room they were in opened. Who walked in was a man with a kind face who wore a light brown trench coat and fedora, who also was wearing white gloves. Ah, I see you two are finally awake. I was starting to think Midnight used too much of her quirk on you both. The man chuckled as he walked over to the coffee machine. Coffee? No thanks, I prefer water. Sonic shook his head, the same with classic Sonic. The man only shrugged his shoulders before pressing a couple buttons before the machine whirled to life and began spewing coffee into a cup. Sonic didn't know who this Midnight person was that this guy was referred to, but suspected it was likely the person behind the pink gas that knocked both Sonics out. My head is all fuzzy. Do you know how long we've been out? Sonic asked the man. 8 hours. Wow, 8 hours. Sonic thought. We've really been out for that long? Yes. Now I think it's my turn to ask the questions, the man said, sitting down in front of them. Yeah, before you do that, who are you again? Sonic questioned. My name is Detective Tsukachi. Now may I ask who you two are? The detective didn't have time to ask his question as the door busted open. I am here. A large man with a booming voice exclaimed as he made his grand entrance. Both Sonics as well as the detective were startled as this giant of a man in a red, blue, white spandex suit who had 2 long strands of blonde hair sticking up came in out of nowhere. Jeez. All Might, why do you have to scare me like that all the time? Also, what took you so long? You were supposed to be here an hour ago. The detective questioned. Sorry, detective. I had to deal with a personal matter. And you should know I have to do my entrance every time I enter a room. All Might laughed again. That is one muscular dude. Sonic whispered over to classic Sonic, who nodded in shock at the appearance of this man. This guy was gigantic. If classic Sonic was standing next to him, he wasn't sure if his height would even match his knees. And those muscles were ridiculous. He looked like he could bench press a whole bridge if he wanted to. So, these are the 2 famous, blue blurs, that I've been hearing about, All Might spoke, now facing towards the Sonics. Wait. You've heard of us? Sonic questioned with surprise on his face. Indeed. You've both made the front page today, the large man said as he threw a newspaper on the table that read, "Two blue blurs stop villain attack." And the picture showed both Sonic and Classic Sonic having a standoff with the sludge villain. "Now that that's settled, you both are here at the Musudafu police station to answer our questions," the giant continued. "And why's that, mister?" Sonic asked. The large man looked stunned for a second, like Sonic was supposed to know who he was. It's All Might," he claimed. "Huh, sick name," Sonic complimented. "Thanks. Now the reason why you're both here is simple, and that's because you two broke the law," All Might stated. "But I already told one of the other costume dudes that me and my buddy aren't from around here." "We had no clue that was a rule," Sonic complained, Classic Sonic nodding his head in agreement with his future self. All Might and the detective shared a glance, with equal amounts of confusion on their faces. "I normally wouldn't believe someone if they said an answer like that, All Might," the detective spoke. "But he isn't lying." "Interesting," All Might hummed. Sonic tilted his head at the detective's response. He believed him. Just like that. Sonic wasn't complaining, no doubt about it. But it just felt strange to Sonic he would believe him so easily. "So, if I may ask, where are you both from?" Sonic gave Classic Sonic a side glance before looking back to the detective. "You wouldn't believe us even if we told you," Sonic simply claimed. "Okay then, how about we start off with your names instead?" the detective asked. "I'm Sonic." "Sonic the Hedgehog," Sonic exclaimed. Detective Tsukachi nodded as he turned to Classic Sonic while All Might was mumbling something about what the difference between a porcupine and a hedgehog was. "And what's your name, little guy? I noticed you haven't talked at all yet." "It's okay, you don't need to be scared," the detective reassured. Before Classic Sonic could do anything, his future self cut in. "Oh. He doesn't talk, he's actually mute," Sonic claimed as Classic Sonic nodded in confirmation. "Okay, that's good to know," the detective said as he turned his attention back to Sonic. "What's his name then?" He's my little brother. His name is Maurice." "Maurice the Hedgehog," Sonic said while Classic Sonic rolled his eyes hearing that dumb name. The detective only stared at Sonic for a PRD of time to the point where Sonic thought he said something wrong. "You're lying." Sonic's eyes widened a little bit. I am sorry, but I think I heard you wrong." "I said you're lying," the detective repeated, a smirk evident on his face. Both Sonic stiffened. "And what makes you think that?" Sonic questioned. "Simple, my quirk," the detective answered. "Your quirk?" Sonic repeated. Classic Sonic only watched the detective with a mix of curiosity and confusion. "My quirk allows me to know who's telling the truth and who's lying," the detective explained. "Wow, quirks can allow someone to do that?" Sonic thought in amazement, with Classic Sonic thinking the same thing as well. These quirks from the little Sonic has seen seem to be vast in what they can do. But what about this muscular guy sitting right next to the detective? What the heck was his quirk? "And what about you, big guy? What's your quirk?" Sonic asked, facing towards All Might. Brief surprise struck All Might before he quickly recollected his composure. That smile returning to his face. "It's a form of super strength. It allows me to lift quite a ton." All Might spoke. "No kidding. Considering those muscles you got there." Sonic agreed, gaining a booming laugh from All Might. Detective Tsukachi coughed. "Now that you both know what my quirk is, tell us your whole story. And don't lie this time." All Might warned. "Okay then, you asked for it." Sonic began. "The hedgehog right next to me isn't actually my brother. He's actually myself, but from the past, and I'm his future self. So he's Sonic the Hedgehog as well," Sonic claimed nonchalantly. All Might raised an eyebrow at this. But Sonic only smirked as he watched the look of shock on the detective's face form as his quirk presumably told him that Sonic was telling the truth. He's telling the truth. The detective stuttered over his words in disbelief. Wait, what? All Might yelled in a booming voice, but how is that possible? Could this be someone else's quirk in the works here? That's where the second part of the story comes in, big guy. Sonic smirked, before Sonic could continue. A loud beep from the coffee machine was heard. Better grab that, detective. You're gonna need it to wrap around the stuff I'm about to tell you. Sonic grinned. Tsukachi only sighed before standing up and walking over to the coffee table. He grabbed his mug, sprinkling a teaspoon of sugar in it before walking back and sitting down. Alright, go on. Okay. So first off, me and my past self here are actually from another universe. We were fighting our greatest enemy as he and his past self had control over a time monster known as the Time Eater. The Time Eater was this creepy-looking monster that had the ability to erase space and time. Sonic explained. Eggman, our enemy, had control over the Time Eater and was using it to erase all the previous times when I defeated him. He kidnapped all of my friends and flung them throughout all of time, and put me and my past self in a crazy white limbo space where we were forced to run through places and fight enemies from my past. Sonic continued. In the end, though, we defeated both of the Eggmen and the Time Eater by using 7 powerful gemstones known as the Chaos Emeralds. By using the Chaos Emeralds' power, we entered our super forms and fought the Time Eater and won. The next thing me and my past self knew was that we were now in your guys' world. Sonic finished while classic Sonic was nodding throughout the story, confirming everything. So any questions? Sonic cheekily asked. By the look of the detective face, you would have thought he saw a ghost. He just simply stared with wide eyes at the blue hedgehogs, the mug in his hand slipping out and spilling coffee all over the table. And my God. He's telling the truth. Everything he just said was true. Detective Tsukachi exclaimed in absolute shock. Tea time monsters. Alternative universes. See Chaos Emeralds. Why you can't be serious. All Might said in the same amount of shock and disbelief as the detective. Well, you don't have to believe us, man, but it seems your friend over here does, Sonic chuckled. So you guys aren't from this world then, huh? Yup. Sonic said, popping the P at the end. I guess that makes some sense then on why you didn't know you needed a license then. The detective guessed. It also explains both of your guys' appearances and abilities. I first thought both had some type of mutant quirk, or that you were perhaps animals with quirks like a friend I know. But then there's your speed. You both are extremely fast. All Might complimented. Yep. Sonic's our name. Speed's our game. All Might smiled at the hedgehog's enthusiasm before his face turned stern. May I ask a question? All Might asked. Sure. Go ahead, Sonic nodded. You said you defeated this Time Eater with something called the Chaos Emeralds. What exactly are the Chaos Emeralds? All Might asked. I think it'll be better if I just showed ya, Sonic said. Say, y'all wouldn't have happened to have a blue backpack, would y'all? You mean the one that you gave to the green-haired boy? Yeah, we have it in the evidence room, but we haven't searched it yet. Why are you asking? The detective asked. Well, it might be because that backpack is carrying the most powerful objects in the universe right now, Sonic sheepishly said as classic Sonic gave an amused grin. The detective looked at the two Sonics for a couple of seconds before turning to All Might. All Might, would you mind G-dash? Already on it, All Might deadpanned as he sped out of the interrogation room, leaving behind a huge gust of air before almost immediately coming back with a blue backpack in hand. The speed at what All Might was going at surprised the two Sonics. Wow, he's pretty fast, maybe I should challenge him to a race after this. Sonic questioned in his mind. All Might then began to dump the 7 glowing jewel stones on the table for the 4 to see. Wow! The detective said in amazement. They're appealing. All Might said softly. Yeah, these bad boys are really something, Sonic agreed with their amazement at the gemstones. So how powerful exactly are these emeralds? All Might asked. Well, when the wielder collects all 7, the emeralds give them ultimate power, a power like no other. Sonic explained. Sonic noticed how All Might stiffened when he said, ultimate power, and, a power like no other. He decided to ignore it and to just continue on. Individually, the emeralds themselves give the wielder lots of abilities like teleportation, time manipulation, energy manipulation, etc., basically a whole lot of crazy things. Both All Might and the detective were gawking at everything they were hearing. How could these emeralds have such power in them? This is a lot to take in, other worlds. Emeralds with infinite power. Detective Tsukachi said in disbelief while All Might seemed to be deep in thought. You'll get used to it. Now could you do us a favor and take off mine and my past self's cuffs? Because they're really starting to hurt. Huh? Oh. Yeah. Of course, the detective complied as he grabbed a key off of his belt and uncuffed the 2 blue hedgehogs. Appreciate it, my man. Sonic exclaimed in relief as Classic Sonic rubbed his wrists. So I'm going to assume you both have nowhere to stay? The detective asked. You guessed it. Sonic exclaimed while giving him a thumbs up. That's what I thought. We'll need to find someone to provide you both shelter. Tsukachi scratched his chin. Perhaps I could do it? All Might asked. 3 pairs of eyes briefly landed on All Might. Are you sure, All Might? Detective Tsukachi asked his old friend. Sonic and Classic Sonic had their eyes on All Might as well as Tsukachi after he suggested having the 2 hedgehogs live with him. Yes, I am. If I were to just turn my back on them and to have them live out on the streets, especially after hearing their situation, then I would have no right to call myself a hero. All Might explained. Wow, really? We appreciate it, but me and my younger self here wouldn't want to trouble you. Sonic replied. Nonsense, young Sonic. It's the least I can do. If you insist. Lead the way, big guy. Sonic said as he made his way to the door with Classic Sonic behind him. Hold it. Both Sonics stopped as they were just inches from the door before turning around and facing the detective. What's wrong? Sonic asked. I have one more question I need to ask, the detective replied. Shoot. These Eggmen you mentioned in your story, if you both were sent here, do you think it's possible that both Eggmen were sent here as well? Especially that time eater thing you mentioned? Detective Tsukachi questioned. For the 2 eggheads, me and my buddy here don't have a clue, but for their little pet, I doubt it, considering the last thing we saw before getting sent here was the time eater exploding, Sonic explained as he made explosion gestures with his hands. Okay, then I guess we'll have to be on high alert then, the detective said as he turned to All Might. All Might, if you're going to claim the role of guardianship and have them under your watch, then I think you should tell them your secret. The detective advised. If not, they'll find out one way or another. Huh? What secret? Sonic asked as both Sonics turned towards All Might in curiosity. All Might sighed, well, I think it's only fair, considering you both told us your secrets. Before the 2 Sonics could respond, steam then came off All Might's body as it completely surrounded him, making him undetectable with the eyes. W.O. Where did he go? Sonic asked in confusion while Classic Sonic squinted his eyes to see if he could see through the thick steam. As the steam cleared, where once was a hulking giant was now a fragile, skinny man with messy blonde hair and shallow eyes who was now coughing up blood. All Might? What happened to you? Are you alright? Sonic asked in worry and shock while his past self continued to stare at him with shocked eyes. Why, yes, I am, thank you for your concern. As you both can see, this is my true form. When I'm not patrolling the streets and saving citizens, this is who I am, All Might proclaimed, his face full of sorrow and maybe even regret. Is turning super buffed part of your quirk or something? Sonic asked. This seemed to cause All Might to chuckle, but it didn't sound like a happy one. I could only wish, the reason I'm like this is because of this, All Might explained as he lifted up the now deflated suit he used to be wearing while he was bulked up. As All Might lifted his baggy suit, both Sonics got a very gruesome sight on the side of the skinny man's torso showing a large purple scar. Both Sonics cringed at the sight as classic Sonic immediately turned away. It's pretty gross, right? I got this scar from fighting a villain years ago, All Might explained. Sonic could only stare at the scar. What did this villain do to cause that? I have speculation that this villain I have fought is still alive, which is why I wanted to watch over you too, All Might stated. He's right, if this villain is still alive and finds out about the existence of those emeralds, he will hunt the both of you down until he gets them for himself, Detective Tsukachi stated. Which is why no one, and I mean absolutely no one, can learn about the existence of those emeralds outside of this room. Do you both understand? Yeah, okay, that makes sense. This guy sounds powerful. But we'll take him on if we have to. Ain't that right, little buddy? Sonic asked. Classic Sonic nodded with a confident smirk. All Might chuckled. I like your confidence, young Sonic, but I believe it's best if you slow down there. This villain is powerful, if not the most powerful one on Earth. I'm not doubting your capabilities. But it's best not to underestimate this villain. Not to mention you lack the license to legally go after villains. Aw man. Sonic whined, right, licenses. The very reason why they were even at the police station to begin with. It seemed for a while they were going to be unable to go after villains and have some fun. So in the meantime, what were they even supposed to do on this world? Now that that's all settled. All Might, you should probably head back home so you can teach both of them on the basics of our world, the detective spoke. You're right, you both will need to learn as much as you can, All Might stated as he turned back to the two Sonics. Ah, what? Learning? But that's so boring, Sonic complained as classic Sonic gave an unamused look to All Might. Sorry, but that's just the way it has to be, All Might said with a smug smile. Ugh. Fine, but me and my little bro here aren't going to enjoy it. Sonic pledged. All Might sighed as he and the two blue hyperactive hedgehogs walked out of the interrogation room and made their way out of the police station, leaving the detective behind. I have a bad feeling about this. Tsukachi grumbled. As the two Sonics walked down the street with All Might, still in his skinny form. They were gaining curious glances either because just of the hedgehog appearances or at the fact that both hedgehogs were kind of famous after defeating the sludge villain. Sonic just smiled at everyone who he passed by as classic Sonic waved to a little girl who pointed them out to her mother. As Sonic walked, he thought up a question he wanted to ask All Might. Psst, hey All Might. Sonic whispered. Wah, hey. Don't call me that out in public. If people were to find out that I'm the symbol of peace, then all of Japan will freak out. All Might explained worriedly. I know. That's what I wanted to ask you about. What's your real name? So that when you're like this I can call you something else, Sonic asked. My real name is Toshinori Yagi. Hey, see. Now we're starting to get to know each other better. Sonic exclaimed as Toshinori nodded his head. As the three of them continued to walk, classic Sonic sniffed the air as he smelt something delicious but all too familiar up ahead. He then jogged forward, leaving both Sonic and Toshinori behind. Hey, I mean little bro. Where are you going? Sonic yelled out as he ran after classic Sonic, leaving Toshinori behind. Guys! Where are you both going? Toshinori yelled towards the direction the two Sonics went off. He picked up the pace as he was trying not to run into any other people going about through their day. As he made his way around a corner, he stopped so that he could catch his breath. Not being All Might sure takes a toll. Toshinori thought as he was catching his breath. As he looked forward, he spotted the two hedgehogs standing in front of a stand that looked like a hot dog stand, not looking tired in the slightest. Geez, how much energy do those hedgehogs have? Toshinori thought to himself in question. He made his way over to them before stopping right behind them. Let me guess, you two are hungry? Toshinori asked the two Sonics as their mouths watered. You could say that again, we haven't eaten at all since we got here. Sonic responded. And our fast legs require food. Well, what do you both want? I can pay for it, Toshinori offered. Wow, really? Thanks Toshidoshi. Yeah, it's no problem. Wait, what did he call me? Toshinori thought confusingly. Classic Sonic snickered as Sonic turned to the man behind the stand. 2 of your best chili dogs, sir. Sonic ordered. The man was slightly stunned because of the hedgehog's appearances but immediately snapped out of it. Coming right up. About 5 minutes later, 2 freshly baked chili dogs were made as the Sonic's mouths watered at the sight. That'll be 2,000 yen please. Toshinori slapped the money down as the 2 hedgehogs took their chili dogs and made their way to All Might's house. By the time both of the Sonics entered Toshinori's house, they were already finished with their chili dogs. Wow, nice place you got here. Sonic complimented as both he and Classic Sonic walked in and observed the home. Inside the house there was a small living room with a TV which was directly connected to the kitchen. Besides the kitchen was a hallway that led down to 3 rooms, one presumably a bathroom while the other 2, one was either Toshinori's, and the other a guest room. Alright, now that we're here, you both will be sleeping in the guest room down the hall, because of your guys' size. I think you both should be able to share the same bed, Toshinori guessed. I'm going to go and start making dinner, you two make yourself at home. Okay. Thanks again Toshi. Sonic exclaimed before he and Classic Sonic walked off towards the guest room. Toshi. All Might thought again in confusion. As Classic Sonic flopped on the bed, Sonic was putting the backpack that had the Chaos Emeralds inside into a nearby closet. Wow! Today has been a crazy day. Sonic exclaimed. We went from fighting a time monster and saving our universe all the way to ending up in a world where everyone has superpowers. Sonic spoke excitingly as Classic Sonic smiled over to him. I can't wait to see all the different kinds of quirks that are out there. Hey! Do you think there are any heroes here who have super speed as well? Sonic asked his younger self. Classic Sonic shrugged as he too wondered if there were any other speedsters out there. Oh well. Guess we'll have to wait and see. Sonic. Maurice. Dinner's ready. Toshinori called out from the kitchen. Be right there. Sonic called back as he and Classic Sonic made their way to the kitchen. I just want to let you two know that I'll be gone every morning to take care of some business, so if one of you happens to wake up early then help yourself to some cereal in the cabinet, Toshinori said. Got it. Thanks for the heads up. Sonic nodded while giving him a thumbs up as Classic Sonic was drinking some water. After eating dinner both Toshinori and the 2 Sonics were sitting in the living room. A thought came to the symbol of peace's mind. Have you two ever thought about going to school? All Might asked. Almost immediately the question made Sonic scream, what? While Classic Sonic choked on his water which resulted in him coughing. And now hear me out. All Might began waving his hands frantically. The school I'm talking about isn't a normal school, it's a school where you go to become a hero. He explained. Wait a second, really? There's a school on this world where you go to become a superhero? Sonic asked in amazement. Now Toshinori was speaking the hedgehog's language. Yes, for 3 years you learn how to become a hero and gain your hero license, Toshinori began. Oh okay. I was wondering how you get a license. Does this school have a specific name? Sonic questioned. Yes, it is called UA High School, Toshinori stated. You got a high school huh? Sounds interesting, Sonic thought. It's one of, if not the best hero school around. I'm sure if you both tried you would be able to get in. Although for you it would be more trickier, All Might said as he looked towards classic Sonic. What do you mean? Sonic asked. Well, you see, you seem to be the right age to get in, young Sonic, he began. But young Maurice here seems to be a little too young, Toshinori claimed. Usually, kids around young Maurice's age would just be starting their junior high years. I see. Sonic said while classic Sonic slightly frowned. Indeed, but perhaps I could pull some strings for young Maurice. Really? How would you manage to pull that off? Sonic asked. Well, I'm not supposed to tell anyone this yet, but I'm actually becoming a teacher there 10 months from now, Toshinori explained. Whoa, you're becoming a teacher? Must be boring, Sonic smirked. Heh, we'll see, but back to what I was saying before, because I'm going to teach there. I can possibly get young Maurice in despite his age, and it's possible that the school may excuse the age gap if he performs well at the entrance exam. That's if. If you two want to go, of course, Toshinori stated. Both Sonics turned to each other, locking eyes with each other as they seemingly smiled at the same time, like they decided on an answer telepathically. Alright, we'll do it. How do we get in? So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 2. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Sonic Speed 546 on fanfiction.net. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.